Okay, all right, here we go. Okay, folks, welcome. My name is Jay. There you go. So I'm not sure if you guys are noticing it when you watch the previous videos. I've been doing almost like a new Microsoft certificate with every session because I'm on some kind of a mad, well, in a good way mad, not in a bad way mad, a mad pursuit of these Microsoft certificates. So as of now, I do have 4 Microsoft certificates. So at the end of the session, when I say stuff like, you can reach out to me on GitHub or see my blog or something, if you are thinking similarly, you want to pursue these certificates, again, you are free to reach out to me. I usually reply to emails within 24 to 48 hours. So please do think about it. They do make a big difference. Like right now, I am doing this corporate training assignment thing, and a big game changer for me were these certificates. And I'm not stopping here. I plan to do more, and obviously, I'll be talking about this and many of the new things I'm learning. I'm always adding this to these AI sessions. So yeah. Well, there you go. That's about me right there. So we are, as usual, going on with our very long running. I think now on for quite some time now. So we've been doing this JavaScript for beginners, and we've reached a point where we are talking about Angular fundamentals with the Hello World project. Now this is like an immediate sequel to the previous session. As always, all my sessions are connected in some way. I try to condense a lot of things packed into this, right? And this one today, well, my plan is now, as Professor was saying, we eventually have to start using the CLI to generate project, generate components, generate services. Now, before I do that, I need to go deeper into the components which actually get generated. So when you use the command that will probably happen in the next session or the session afterwards, the first thing is I want to show you guys what to expect when you run those commands, because it's a lot of code, a lot of file. And that is what I really want to do today. Show you the folders, show you the files, and how those files work with each other. And more importantly, if you are here, then what are the things you need to know or maybe revise before we can start using those commands and really start building a project. Now, as I mentioned before, my ultimate goal here is to finish this basic thing by building an actual application in Angular. So that's really my goal here. So I'm really just putting the foundations brick by brick in every session. Now, before I continue, as always, I do have a PDF ready to share, as I do in all of my sessions. So I'll share it once now. And obviously, a lot of folks, they join up after a bit and so on and so forth. So I'll share it again later as well. So Professor, let me just go quickly upload that file, sir. So just give me 1 second. So I have it ready here on my desktop. So let me just quickly do that and also run the audience through the file so they know what to expect when they get that PDF. So I'm sending it here in the chat, folks. You should be able to access it. I'm sending it to everybody. Now remember, Zoom chat does not stay there. It disappears after the session is over. So please download the PDF and let me go ahead and open that PDF so you know what to expect. So let's do, yeah, there we go. Okay, so this is the PDF that I've shared you. So it has just been updated like literally yesterday with the latest session. So what I do is, first is the main page. It has access to the GitHub repository. So again, it's a long running series, folks. If you're really coming in now, then you really need to go all the way back and all of this will get connected. But the key links are always there in the front page, the main GitHub links, the learning links, self-learning links, and also link to my forum and everything. So right there in the first page. And again, if you scroll down, there you go. And the main tools we use for, JavaScript development. The good thing about JavaScript, as always, is the tools you need are very, very straightforward. No too much of IDE stuff. Then finally, today's session number 13. Again, there's a project link there as well. I already have the project running, but the link is there as well if you want to go ahead and try it out after the session. So there you go. That's what this. And of course, if you keep scrolling down, every session, there's always some stuff. So I usually compress everything that is discussed into this file. So you can literally like go back in time as you're watching the YouTube video. So that's what this PDF is. So I'll send it again at the end of the session. Now, coming back then. So this is, that's the one sheet document, the one I sent you. So now today's session, although there are many slides, I really want to go deeper into a typical Angular component. I have a few components in my Hello World project. So after this, in the next session, I plan to show you how exactly the Angular CLI looks, how it works, how to create things. So that is coming up. But before I can do that, I want to show you what actually it generates and what it contains and how should you prepare when you start building your own project as well. As always, when I started, AI wasn't that big, but I've been mentioning this in almost every session. So you must really have some kind of AI to complement your coding skills. I personally use the GitHub Copilot. I mentioned this before as well. We even did a couple of sessions just for AI. So there are a lot of discussions about that as well, but I'll not go into that today. So just letting you know all the things I use. So I use VS Code to build the project. So again, hopefully you're making some notes. So VS Code, very much essential to run my project in the first place, and obviously to run the tools and everything. Second thing, you will need to have Node.js as well. All this is mentioned before. The links are available in the one-sheet document. But because in the next session we are about to start building things, we'll be running these commands and everything. I'm kind of just doing a quick recap of the key things you will need. That's what this session is. This session is like a prequel to the actual action which is coming up in the next session. So remember, VS Code, Node.js, as usual, your favorite browser. I recommend Firefox, but if you like Edge or Chrome, that is fine too, not a problem. But in these recording sessions, I've been using Firefox from the first session. I like to maintain that consistency. And finally, we cannot escape AI anymore. You have to use it. I mean, like, for example, I mentioned I'm doing a boot camp, like a 3-month boot camp for a client right now. The AI is so important. They've just opened up the AI access to pretty much every employee in the company. I'm talking big companies with thousands of employees. So all of them, they literally, in fact, they're encouraged, they're forced, or even compelled to use AI in their daily coding. That is how big and integral AI has become. So there's no escaping it anymore. It's just how it is now. So my preferred AI is GitHub Copilot. There is a free version, but I don't rely on that. I use the GitHub Pro subscription, which is like, in India at least, it is $10, $10 per month. If that is too much for you, I understand. It's not the same for everybody. In which case, you can use any of the free services available, either ChatGPT or Gemini from Google, or even Microsoft Copilot if you can't afford the Pro version. But the $10 per month, I'm not getting any commission for doing this, but please, it's really definitely worth your time to go for that. So these are the essentials you need to just start. From next session, we'll be really digging deeper into the code. But today, so with these essentials in mind, hopefully you'll have it ready. I already have it, right? It's already running here. So let me jump in, folks. So here is my demo project. This is the same project I showed last time, but last time I spent my time explaining why exactly we are using Angular, how does the Angular CLI and stuff like. But today I will really go deep into how each of these things is being linked, each of these things is being coded, and so on and so forth. So there are a few more common components I use here. Is the home component, there is the about us component, and finally there's the contact me component. There's also a navigation bar component, and finally there is a footer component. So I'll spend a few minutes on each of them. Sometimes I'll go a little too much time on something, like for example, the contact me, it has some JavaScript interactivity as well. So I'll probably spend a little bit more time on this, because in the project we are going to build next, that will have a lot more interaction in terms of consuming data and backend and all those things. So I do have some plans here, but first, yes, the foundational stuff. So let's jump in here, folks. So what exactly is a Angular component? Now, try to understand this. So a website, any website really is individual blocks coming together to form the whole thing. I always use like a Legos. If you use Legos or seen them and so on, we build something by connecting different Lego blocks together. Or even, for example, right now, when you think about the Zoom thing, this entire session, how is it coming together? So like I am now joining to you from my laptop right here, but I'm able to speak to you on my iPad Air, and then you can hear me because the internet is being given by some other company, and then you're all joining from your mobile device, things like that. And then I am using the presentation with the PPT. I'm showing the code here on, like I'm using Edge right now. Hold on, I just said I'll use Firefox, so let me switch to Firefox. So I'm using Firefox right now. So let me take the URL. The URL is the link in the top. So let's run that here. And as usual, I'm going to quickly open the developer tools. So again, these are all stuff that I've already discussed before. So I'm going to get the developer tools up and running. There you go. Right. So what is happening here? So all these different pieces coming together to form this online AIU session. So similarly, when we talk about an Angular website, most of it is built using a component or a collection of components. So majority of the time, you are essentially building Angular components to build your web app. This very simple web app that I have in front of me, it has, as I mentioned before, the navbar component. So that's like a separate thing. And then you have the footer, that is like a separate thing. Same thing with the, hold on, some zoom pop up here. So I'm just going to close that. Yeah, and then you have the home component. So that's again a separate thing. About us, again, that is a separate thing, and so on and so forth. So most of the time is spent building these Angular components. But at the same time, we are just showing things like this is just a hello world project. It doesn't have much in terms of connecting to a back end. Back end again is something we'll go deeper in the next session. So back end is where you really do stuff like authentication. Back end is where you get data from from the database and so on. So that is also something I'll show you in the next session. So those things are not here today. So when we start doing those things, we will also be building services. Okay, so again, hopefully you're making a note of all these things. So we don't have services here because this is just a simple hello world project. So we are just focusing on components. That's what I want to show you today. Go deeper to the code a little bit. Normally I don't go deeper into code, but we've reached a stage where we can no longer avoid it. Then we are going to build services. So try to make a difference between these two things. You have components which are used to show things, and you have services, like they try to connect from your website to some kind of a backend API server. So components and services. Today, I don't have any services to show you because that's not what we are doing today. We're just going to show you how to show stuff. And once that is kind of in the clear, then once I show you how to actually build this component, so that's what the next session, the next few sessions will be. And once that knowledge is in place, then we are going to go. I have a backend server. I'll show you how to run it and everything as well. And then we are going to go and try to build a real full stack front end web app, which is really the goal of this entire very long running series. So coming back then, so Angular component. So what does a Angular component contain? It will have a HTML file. It will have a CSS file, and obviously it will also have a JavaScript file. Now, those of you who've been following along in these sessions or watched the previous sessions, you'll remember at the very early days of our programming, I spoke about something called vanilla JS, vanilla JavaScript. So that is where we don't use any framework. Just to, Angular is a framework. We talked about why we use a framework in the previous session. So vanilla JavaScript is where you don't use any framework. You simply use HTML, JavaScript, and CSS to build your entire project. Some of you might remember we built a NASA project where we tried to show there's an API called NASA Astronomy Picture of the Day. That we did spend a couple of sessions on that. So that was vanilla JavaScript. So here, I want you to make a connection. So the vanilla JavaScript also used HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, 3 files working together. So here also, an Angular component is made up of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So there is a relationship here between the vanilla JavaScript project we built before and now with this one where we have a component. But try to understand, like the vanilla JavaScript, the whole website was built in those 3 files or similar files being connected. But that we already discussed. We cannot scale it. We cannot use that approach to build large website. That is why we use a framework. At the same time, Angular, what it does you're essentially building, in my mind, every time I work on an Angular project, I'm essentially building like mini vanilla JS things, but then Angular is helping me combine them together. That is how I think about it. Like, this is not the same approach taken by React JS, for example. It's completely different if you're looking at Vue.js, or even Next.js and so on, or Blazor and Razor. There are so many front-end frameworks. But AngularJS, though, really takes that core vanilla JS approach, and then you're essentially building individual things. So that is why, when I had to choose a framework, I already explained this, but now as you're going deeper, this is why I chose, when I had to teach the basics of JavaScript, basics of frameworks and so on, I chose Angular because it is a smooth transition from building vanilla JS projects, which we have done in the past, and now we are simply taking that pocket skill that we already have, and now we're just kind of multiplying it and stitching them together using the Angular framework. So please keep that in mind. An Angular component, as far as I'm concerned, again, my own interpretation is it is really a mini, like a vanilla JS experience, but within the framework of the Angular JS framework. So and you get all the benefits of modern programming, like package management, routing and interlinking and building interceptors, building services. You get all the benefits while still taking advantage of your existing vanilla JavaScript knowledge. Okay, so it's like a little bit of a theory, but I really wanted to think about this because this is something I emphasize in every session. You must think about this in a very pragmatic way when you approach software development. I tell this to all my students. Software development is rarely just about coding. It is about coming to it with a problem-solving approach. And when you're trying to solve problems, it is important you use your existing knowledge, existing skills, and on top of that, you try to solve new problems. Okay, that is really the most important thing here. So Angular, we started with JavaScript, we spent some time with HTML, we spent some time with CSS, we spent some time with Bootstrap. We even did some Node.js and all that. So we have been building that blocks of skills over time, and now we have reached a point where I am expecting you to combine all those things. So pre-existing skills being used to solve new problems. So a little bit philosophical there, but hopefully, again, I pack a lot of things into this session. So hopefully when you watch this video again, pause and make notes and everything and try to process what I just said. Right? Okay, so there you go. So every Angular component will have HTML, CSS, and code. So let's jump into my project, which is already running, by the way. So let's go here. And some of you, if you're trying to run this project, let me just quickly show how you would do that. Now, again, we already spent a lot of time on Git. So I'm going to assume you already installed Git and stuff like that. So remember, the link is already there in my project. So first step is you'll go to that link, and then you'll go to my profile, and then you'll scroll down here. Hold on, Angular link, I have to go to the PDF. So I'm going to go to the PDF. Okay, so you'll scroll up to today's link. There you go. And once you go there, you'll reach a repository called Angular for Students, right? Now, if you have Git, hopefully you do. Again, we've been doing this for quite some time now. So if you have Git, use the method I taught you before, where you use the Git URL to copy and then clone it. Okay, but in case you don't have Git, or you just want a shortcut or something, you can directly download the zip file, which is what I'm going to do right now. I would really insist you do this step before the next session, because when I start creating projects, running command lines, you should already know what you're building. It always helps when you already know where you're going. It's easy to map to it. So let me quickly go to the downloads folder. 1 second. Dr. Watson, if I'm going too fast, please do let me know, sir. I hope I'm being clear, sir.
As far as I'm personally concerned, you're doing fine.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. So
Very
next
well.
step is once I'm just downloading it. You may not be seeing that yet on the screen. Hold on. I'm just okay. Now you should be able to see my folder. There you go, folks. I'm in the downloads folder. I've extracted the file, but this is not recommended. I hope all of you are taking my advice and doing it. But this is just for folks who may not have the Git already. So go here, and here you'll see there's a specific folder. Hope you can see here, Dr. Watson. Hello World AIU,
Yes.
specifically for this
Yes.
session. Exactly. There you go. Now there are a lot of other folders as well, guys. For my other clients and students and so on. But this is specifically for AIU sessions. So and then I'll open this in VS Code. Right. Again, we are using VS Code for all our sessions. Again, the only thing you need for front-end development is VS Code and Node.js. It's very straightforward. So this is again my own computer, so I can trust this folder. It's my own code, obviously. Then I'll go to the terminal, and then the terminal opens up. I mentioned again the AI. As I mentioned, guys, it is really, really very much a part of a developer lifestyle now. You can no longer escape the whole AI situation. So it's integrated everywhere. So I'm just going to say npm and space install. So and that will install all the necessary Angular files. Depending on my internet, it should take a few seconds. While that happens, Dr. Watson, I'm just going to drink some water, sir. I'm thirsty, sir. Yes, sir.
That's okay. Enjoy your drink.
Thank you, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, reminding you we are having a very, very interesting programming session with our expert in programming, Professor Jay Bachahally Krishnan Vijaya Simha. Uh,
Okay.
I don't
Uh,
have
uh,
any drink around, so I can
Oh, yes,
speak.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes. So thank you, Dr. Watson, for taking care of the dead air there. Yes, sir. So, uh, so folks, as you saw, the packages were installed. But remember, I've seen this in many such scenarios. Sometimes these packages can take up to 10 minutes to install. So please don't panic if it doesn't happen this fast, because I could be on a high-speed internet. So let's go ahead. Next step is npm RUNSTART. I know it's small, but I can't make the terminal bigger, guys. You just have to roll with me there. Just kind of just go close to the screen and just make out the commands. npm run start, and there you go. So it will start running. It says it's already running. Of course, it's already running because it's already running. So I'm just going to say, just cancel. I'm just going to say yes, and make it run. So it's running twice now. So it's running before and now it's running. So 2 times it's running. So there you go, doing some stuff. This can take a few minutes sometimes, depending on your laptop. So don't panic if it takes more than a few minutes, right? So we'll hold on. There you go. And once that happens, you get like a port number. See here, you can just control click and it'll open in your browser. So take the URL. So we want to run this in Firefox. Alt tab, go to Firefox. It's already running here. That's the first one I was running before the session started. And this is the new one, which I started running just now. And there you go. Right. So if you have Git, if you're already familiar with Git and you took my advice and you've been practicing Git, very happy for you. Very good. So do the Git clone and everything. But in case that's not an option, download like I did right now. It's getting recorded anyway. So please make sure you're able to run it like this before the next session, because next session we'll try to build this thing from scratch. It's going to get very exciting. Okay, then. So now let's go back and understand how this component is working. So let's resume the slideshow. I was here in Angular component. So let me just select that. And I'll say from current slide. So Angular component again. So 3.5. Let's look for it. So what do you have here? So I'm now, if you see on the URL here at the top, I'm really in the main home component, right? The root of the project. There's no slash or anything. That is the home, the root space of the website. So I'll go to my VS Code. And on the left side, once again, a smaller detail, tiny detail to focus on. You'll see there are so many folders, and I am going to unlock the SRC folder. Again, I apologize, I cannot zoom that. So, again, SRC, that is the folder. And inside that, you will have, again, a folder called app. So I will open that, and there I see all my components. So I did mention before, simply by looking at this website, that I have a home component, about us component, contact me component, the nav bar in the top, and then finally the footer in the bottom. So I guessed that there would be at least 5 components. So now if I go back to the project, I have a home component, I have a navbar, I have a footer, I have a contact me, I have an about us. So my mapping is so far very, very correct. So when we build this project in the next session, we will be building this many components. Now remember, you don't have to build exactly 5 components. So you could build 10 components, you could build 3 components. But in this example, yes, 5, it is matching. So what is happening here? Let's start with the home component because that is the one you see when you run this project. So where is all this coming from? That's what we are looking for here. So I go directly to the folder called home, and then here, there you go. So what did I say? I said that every component is in a way a microcosm, like a mini vanilla JavaScript. So we should find 3 files at least. So I have the HTML. There you go. I have the CSS, for styling. I'm not using any styling here, so that's okay. I'll tell you why it is empty. And then finally, I have the JavaScript file. Now here you'll see like, okay, wait a second. If you look closely, it says, okay, home.component, which is fine. That's the way Angular creates files. It doesn't say JS, it says TS. I mean, I did touch upon this in one of my previous sessions. Now, JavaScript is just one language, just one programming language, and but however, there are variations of JavaScript, and one of the major variation is TypeScript. So I'm just searching for it online, and you'll see here what is TypeScript, and if I go here, this is TypeScript. So you can see from the title here, TypeScript is really JavaScript with support for types, right? And we talked about it in a previous session. A type is nothing but the data type that you use to store data. Now the JavaScript, once again going back to flashback, it supports objects which don't have any specific structure or anything. But that's not really enough when you're programming. So you really want some structure, some enforcement, and things like that. That is made possible with TypeScript. Okay, you don't have to learn TypeScript separately. It's really just JavaScript with support for types. So it's one of those learn as you do kind of deal. So we'll not worry too much about it. So what you should think about and be aware is Angular by default uses TypeScript, but it's really just JavaScript. So just roll with it. Don't worry like, oh, I have to learn one more thing. Not really. Okay. So there you go. So that TS is nothing but JS, right? So it's TypeScript, which is actually JavaScript. So I have the 3 files. Now there is an extra file here called spec.ts. Now in programming, there is something called as test-driven development, unit testing, something you may have heard of if you're going deep into programming and all that. So you do have such thing called as test-driven development, unit tests and stuff like that. It is kind of an advanced thing. I may jump into that after we finish building our Angular stuff. So maybe in the future, but for now there are no plans to include it. Even right now, this is an empty file. It doesn't have any tests or anything. So to just ignore that file for now. So what we should be focusing on is HTML, and then the TypeScript file, okay, and finally the CSS file. I want to start by explaining why the CSS is empty, because hey, wait a second. This looks, yeah, this is the website we're building, right? It looks okay. I'm not saying it's like very beautiful or something. Now, if I make this, like smaller, okay, it's very responsive. You see that? Like the nav bar, it's collapsing and everything. You get that hamburger menu on the top right corner. The text is adjusting itself as I make the window bigger. You can see it right there. Professor, do you see the text is adjusting itself as I'm moving, sir? And you can also see in the top, sir, the navigation menu. As the window becomes smaller, it disappears and becomes like a menu thing, sir. So again, it's definitely responsive, which can only happen with CSS. However, I don't have any CSS here. So the simple question is, okay, if there is no CSS, where is the responsiveness coming from? So once again, I'm like a guy who's unpacking a mystery here. So I did spend some time on Bootstrap many sessions ago. So I hope students who are coming regularly, you see how all of them are falling in place and all the different things I taught over the last, I think, a year or something, Professor. They're all falling in place now as we reach like the second half of our series here. So So I am using Bootstrap, right? So if I go into my index.html, you will notice, not index.html, hold on, app component, one second. If I go to index.html package.html, one second, guys, I must, there it is. I have included Bootstrap right here. So I am definitely using Bootstrap in my project. And if I go to my home HTML, you'll see that I'm using all these things like container here. This I can zoom in. So I'm going to go to view and I'm going to go to appearance and I'm going to say zoom in. I'll just zoom in one more time. Okay, Professor, are you able to see here, sir? I kind of reduced the amount of space I have, but that's okay. I have something called as class and then container. I have something called row and I have something called display for. I have something called column, LGA, text center and all that, card body and stuff like that. These are all ready to use classes which are available from Bootstrap. So I don't have to write my own CSS. I can simply directly use the ready-to-use CSS classes from Bootstrap, which will save me the hassle of having to write my own styling. So I'm able to make my life a little easy by using ready-to-use styling provided by Bootstrap in my project. So that is why, although every project needs CSS, every project needs HTML, and every project needs JavaScript, I myself can leave it empty because I'm just making my life easy by using styling provided by the Bootstrap library. And this is also something we have touched upon in the previous sessions. In fact, we have discussed Bootstrap on multiple occasions. So that is why the CSS file is empty. In that case, the thing is, okay, why is it even there? Why not just leave it empty? But a lot of times, at least in advanced projects, maybe not in mine, but when you start working on yourself and improving your skills and so on, you may not be happy with the ready-made stuff that is available from Bootstrap. Now, when that happens, you're like, okay, I'm gonna make my own styling, or you'll take what is already there and customize it further. It's like, you buy a phone, it looks like exactly the same phone your friend has, but then maybe you get a different type of casing, or maybe you get a engraving, stuff like that. Like cars or phones, whatever. You go ahead and customize it. It make it unique or something. So similarly, if you want to add your own styling, make it your own unique thing, that is where you can start writing your own CSS here. Now, we're not really discussing CSS, it's beyond the scope of sessions. But yes, that is there in case you want to add it. But if you don't want to mess with it, no problem. You can still build reasonably good looking website by simply using Bootstrap. It'll look very simple, very straightforward, but we are really prioritizing functionality over appearance here. So it's totally fine. A lot of people do it, a lot of companies do it. It's okay. You're good enough. If you can use Bootstrap, you're good enough. All right. So there we go. Finally, now we can focus on the real things, HTML and then TypeScript. So here, let's start with TypeScript because that one looks simple. Now you'll see here that this is a bit of Node.js going on here, right? So what is happening at the top, we are doing what is called as an import. So you'll see this import statements a lot as we go into coding and building a project as the sessions continue. So whenever we want to use some features, we go ahead and import what we need into a specific file. So in this specific file, I really want to use the component system provided by Angular. So the component system, it allows you to link all the related files. So that's what is happening here in line number 1. It looks a little technical, probably because you're looking at it for the first time. But when you start staring at things like me, like almost every day and every week, you'll get used to it. So you're importing that feature into your project. And then this component thing will go ahead and link up all the necessary things. So the main thing is, you see here the HTML file is being linked to this file, and the component styling sheet is also being linked there. That is the main thing that I wanted to focus on. But then if you look at line number 8 and 10, we are exporting. So again, we are importing the necessary things, and using those important stuff, we have to send back something from our end. So here we are exporting the home component. So this is the home component we are talking about. However, you'll see that it is empty. Why is that? It is empty because this is a static page. It doesn't have any actual TypeScript or JavaScript based interactivity. It's not talking to a service. It's not collecting any user input. So it really has nothing to process. Going all the way back to my earlier sessions, JavaScript, HTML is for structure, CSS is for styling, and JavaScript is for interactive. That's the brain of this thing. But here, there's nothing going on. It's just displaying stuff. So when such is a scenario, we can expect that, okay, there'll be nothing going on inside this component. So we are exporting an empty things. And then why export at all? Again, it's like Angular framework. It is expecting you to export the component. So we have to do it. It's empty, which is fine, but we still have to export it. So please get used to this structure, okay? All the components we build will have some import statements. They will have some export statements as well, and a lot of other variables and linkups. Like here, we are trying to link this TypeScript file with the HTML and CSS. So again, going back to that vanilla JS thing we talked about earlier in the session. So we have to combine them together. So that's, again, get used to this format. It appears strange now, but once you look at it for some time, like how I've been looking at, it becomes very normal. Like that is a format. It's like after you, speaking or typing in English, you put a full stop. Now, the first time you put a full stop all those years ago when you saw English for the first time, you're like, okay, why do we have to put the full stop? But now, okay, that's just how grammar works, right? So there you go. Same thing here. This is the standard format of a component. Next thing then. So now that we have seen the TypeScript file and we also saw the CSS file, it's time to spend some time with the HTML. So here, hopefully, let me just collapse this Explorer and let me, you'll see here that some of the lines, they, sometimes go outside the view. Let me just show what I'm talking about. So here you see like a scroll bar. Hold on. Yeah, you'll see here on the bottom of the screen. It's a very silly thing, but I'll just explain that. Anyways, you'll see sometimes you'll see a scroll bar when you're working on projects. Please remember to word wrap the text. So there are two ways of doing it. You go to view. Again, very silly thing, but it's how amazing how many times you can forget this. So one is the word wrap here. Okay, so let's turn that on. There you go. That's gone again. And another way, let me just disable that. Another one is a shortcut Alt Z, that also takes it away. Alt Z, Z as in zebra, Alt Z. Very important when you're coding to use word wrap. Okay, so otherwise you keep scrolling endlessly. It's a complete waste of time and it's very frustrating as well. So coming back here, so this should be familiar already to you. So this is standard HTML. HTML is where you build out your structure. I'm using Bootstrap. We already spent a couple of sessions on Bootstrap. So here, what are the key things you want to remember? One, go ahead and spend some time watching one of our earlier videos where we spent some time with HTML. And of course, practice some HTML yourself. What is the best way to practice HTML? Now here, all our styling is coming from Bootstrap. So if I were you, I would spend some time practicing with the example code already given to you by the Bootstrap company, because we are using Bootstrap for everything. So my advice to you, again, hopefully you're making notes, is go to the Get Bootstrap website. I'm doing that right now. And here there are two places. One is the doc section, right? Okay. Second is the example section. Now, this is where I started. I mean, again, I've been using Bootstrap since I started this whole tech tutoring, work as a freelancer guy. 2012, that's really where I discovered all these things. It's still going on. It's 2025 now. These things are not going anywhere. They're going to be around for decades. So There you go. So start with the example section. You get a lot of examples here. It'll combine HTML, and you will get Bootstrap also. Best place to just figure things out. Just come here and just open any of these links. Like for example, badges, just open the badges section and they will give you the badge code right here. Okay, the code is literally in front of you. Now, here you can't actually see the code. So you might be thinking, okay, wait a second, Jay, there is no code. How do I see it? I remember what I told you. So you just have to right click, and then you'll have an option called view page source, and that will give you the code they are using. Okay, very simple trick. So when you're learning something, just go to any website. I mean, doesn't matter which website, all of them will just give you the code like this. But we are specifically interested in Bootstrap. So when you go to something you like, just right click again and then check out the page source. That will give you the code, and then just sit and understand how they are doing it. Okay, that's the main thing about this Bootstrap. So same thing is happening here. So spend time looking at example code, right? And then that is really how you build it. There's no shortcut to this. Now, at the same time, okay, please understand that even before AI, I wasn't typing any of these things by hand. And I mentioned this, and I've been doing sessions for many years for AI, you know. So when I started, there was no AI. So how did people write these things? How did we do stuff? So either I used an existing project I built myself for a previous session, or I took the code online from some other project and so on. And then I remixed it to suit my needs. So nobody is expecting you to sit, like, for example, a web page may have, even the simple project has some 200 lines, I think. Okay, so yeah, even this small project has like 200, 300 lines, maybe a little bit more than that. I didn't type all 300 lines. In the olden days, I would have taken that code from somebody else or from one of my earlier projects. But now you do have AI. So when I say practice with these things, I'm really asking you to practice maybe a couple of things, 3 or 4 components by hand. And then what I really wanted to focus is remixing things. That's very important. Okay, that is where AI comes into the picture. Okay, so you use AI to give you the original code, okay, the original 300 lines of code or something, and then it's you as a developer who sits and then remixes or modifies what needs to be modified to get the ultimate result. See, that is really where AI comes into the picture. That is the productivity that I am talking about. Again, as I mentioned, I'm working with this client here. I have a chance to speak to them and look at their offices and how they're working and all that. Everybody is already AI enabled. Now, it's not about the AI doing the developer's job. It's mostly about cutting down the time it takes from having an idea to solve the problem and getting there. Okay, so let's say a big project, it can have about 10,000 lines of code. In the olden days, even with using online resource and all, it may have taken, say, a week to write or type or find those 10,000 lines of code, and then additional so many hours to remix that code. Now, where does AI come in? AI comes in cutting down that, say, 10 days of effort to maybe 4 hours of effort or 1 day of effort. So that's really what we are talking about in terms of AI. So as a developer, you're still essentially doing the same thing you're doing before. The only thing is we are now cutting down the time it takes to get that final code. And this is what I want this class, these students to understand. So when people say you're using AI, it's nothing to do like cheating or being guilty about using it. It's mainly going somewhere faster. It's like when I go to office, I always use a taxi, or in India, we have these three-wheeler things, like we call them tuk-tuks, or we just call them auto, right? Now, if I don't have those things, I have to take the bus or the metro. It might take me 2, even 3 hours to reach the office. So I use a taxi, I reach the office in 15 minutes. Now I have 2 hours extra time in my day to do whatever I want. Morning I save 2 hours, evening I save 2 hours. I have 4 hours left now, which I can do extra. Now what I do is I go to the office early, I spend an extra 1 hour extra with my students, Evening, again, I spend an extra 1 hour with my students, even though, I don't have to do that, but still I have the free time anyway because I took a taxi. So the AI is like that taxi. So there you go. So again, please, the main goal here is for you to spend time in that Bootstrap website, understand what is happening. That's really what I'm expecting from you as a student. And then when you look at the code and you use AI or something to write this code, the key thing is, are you able to understand what's happening and then modify it to suit your project requirement? So that's the key here, folks. So before I hand over the session back to Dr. Watson, so quickly I want to go and show you the remaining components. Same thing. So home component, there it is. Again, I go to navbar. So once again, you see that it has HTML. See, same Bootstrap and everything. Again, TypeScript. Okay, there you go. There is some JavaScript here because we are doing some JavaScript interactivity stuff. And finally, you have the CSS, which is empty, as I mentioned, because I'm using Bootstrap. So that's the second one. Let's quickly move on to the footer then. Same thing again, HTML stuff. There you go, the footer information. Again, TypeScript. It has one single line of current year, some small amount of JavaScript happening there. CSS, again, totally empty. So that's component number 3. Let's move on to about us. Same story, HTML stuff, Bootstrap and everything. Very good. Paragraph tag, TypeScript, nothing going on. See, I told you, if there's no JavaScript being used, it will be empty. Finally, the final component of the website, contact me. Now, this does have a lot of things happening because if you remember, the contact us has a form. It actually has a very interactive form. So, which means there's some JavaScript going on. So let's find out. So that's my theory anyway. So again, HTML, you see a lot of stuff going on, form tag and everything. You'll also see something called star ng. We'll talk about that in the future session. And finally, if I go to TypeScript, see, previously all the export things were empty, but here you have a variable, you have a object, you have on submit, you have send another, so much of JavaScript because there is some interactivity going on. So that is really, there are a lot of other stuff here, folks, like routing, for example. I will explain this when we start building the project. And again, app module, how does, look at here, all these things are being imported. What does this do? What does it do? We'll again go deeper in the next session. So that's really what I wanted to discuss here, Dr. Watson. I think I've covered everything I want to do, sir. So the PowerPoint, just for the sake of completion, I'll just